So the first generation Ford Thunderbird started out with the Y block. They had a 292 Y block and they eventually came out with a 314 Y block, which was also used on Mercury vehicles as well. Now the second generation is where they started going with the FE engines. So they started out with the 352 FE engine on the second generation, and for the third generation they came out with the 390, which was considered to be the most popular. So the 390 FE engine, eventually the MEL big block Mercury Etzel Lincoln engine. Then they had the tri-power setup of the 390 FE engines. Now eventually what they did when they switched from the fourth generation to the fifth generation, this is where they started to phase out the FE engines, because they still had the FE 390 and they still had the FE 428. They came out with the 429 Cobra jet, which is based on the 385. So that was the first time they switched away from the FE engines and went to the what's called the Lima big block engines. Now the seventh generation is where it gets very interesting. They had the resurrection with the ninth generation, which is the Ford Turbo Coupe like you see here. They also had, the 302 V8, the Windsor V8 is probably the most popular engine for the ninth generation, if not the Turbo Coupe. And then for a short period they had what's called the Essex V6, which just like the Windsor V8, the Essex V6 was also made in Canada as well. And then they finished off the 10th generation, is where in 1994 they finally dropped the 302, which was a pushrod engine, and they came out with the first single overhead cam modular engine. So really, the reason I think the Ford Thunderbird is the best classic car, especially the best classic Ford, is from all the pushrod generations from 1954, 1955 when the Thunderbird first came out, all the way to the modular engines. You can really track the history of what Ford did with their V8 engines. So hope you enjoyed the video. Please consider subscribing, and yes,